I froze mid-step, my jaw practically hitting the grass of my own backyard, as the sound of laughter and splashing assaulted my ears. There, in my brand-new, $8,000 hot tub, the one I hadn't even dipped a toe into yet, was Karen, the self-appointed queen of our HOA, lounging like she'd just claimed the throne of a five-star resort. Her neon orange swimsuit clashed violently with the LED lights I'd installed, and a guy I'd never seen before was pouring sparkling cider into her plastic cup while his lime green swim trunks sagged way too low for comfort. Karen caught my eye, raised her cup in a mock toast, and called out over the blaring pop music, "Oh, good. You're back, Ryan. We were just saying how lucky Maple Grove is to have a community gym like this." My hands clenched so hard I thought my knuckles might pop. Community gym? This was my hot tub, my birthday gift to myself after 14 months of saving, and now it was overrun with strangers, spilled drinks, and Karen's glittery flip-flops floating right over the jets. Hey, if you're as shocked as I was, drop a comment below and let me know what you'd do if someone hijacked your backyard like this. I'm dying to hear your thoughts. I'm Ryan, by the way, a 32-year-old graphic designer who moved to Maple Grove, a quiet little suburb in Ohio, for some peace and quiet. I'm the kind of guy who'd rather binge a Netflix series than deal with neighborhood drama, but apparently, Karen had other plans for me. She's the head of our HOA, a woman who treats the rulebook like her personal Bible and every resident like her loyal subject. I'd only lived here for 6 months, but I'd already heard the horror stories. Karen fining people for leaving their trash cans out 10 minutes past pickup, or demanding everyone paint their mailboxes the same shade of maple beige. I thought I could stay under her radar. I was wrong. Let me take you back a few weeks to set the stage. I'd been dreaming of this hot tub since the day I signed the lease on my house. I spent $1,200 on a privacy fence, professionally surveyed to keep Karen's HOA claws at bay, $300 on custom LED lights that could glow any color I wanted, and another $150 on a Bluetooth speaker system that could play my favorite lo-fi beats while I soaked away the stress of deadlines. I'd even splurged on a little wooden sign that said Ryan's Retreat in cursive just to make it official. The day it was installed, I stood in my backyard, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning, imagining my first soak under the stars. That dream lasted exactly 48 hours. Karen showed up on a Tuesday, clipboard in hand, her visor tilted like she was about to inspect a military base. She chewed her gum so loud I could hear it through the fence slats as she peered into my yard. "Nice addition, Ryan," she said, her tone dripping with fake sweetness. Of course, outdoor installations like this should be HOA approved, but I'll let it slide this time. I forced a smile, reminding her that my hot tub was on private property, well within my surveyed lines, and not subject to HOA rules. She gave me this creepy little smirk, scribbled something on her clipboard, and muttered, "Community spirit is so important, don't you think? Neighbors should share resources." I should have known then that I was in trouble. Fast forward to that Saturday afternoon when I got home from a quick grocery run, barely gone an hour, and found my backyard transformed into a full-blown pool party. Balloons bobbed in the breeze, a folding table sagged under a pile of chips and dip, and someone had strung up dollar store fairy lights along my fence. A portable speaker blasted early 2000s hits, and there were at least 8 people I didn't know splashing in my hot tub, their laughter echoing off the wooden fence. Karen was the ringleader, of course, directing her minions like a suburban dictator. Her best friend, Jessica, was there, sipping a drink while her husband, Mike, dunked a pool noodle into the water. Another neighbor, Emily, was snapping selfies with the jets in the background, and some guy named Chad, who I later learned only showed up for free snacks, was doing a cannonball that sent water splashing onto my patio. I stood there, my grocery bag still in hand, as my brain tried to process the chaos. My hot tub, my sanctuary, was now a public splash zone, and Karen was acting like she'd done me a favor. She waved at me again, her voice cutting through the music like a foghorn. "Hope you don't mind, Ryan. The board agreed this should be a community space. We even brought our own cups." My blood boiled. I hadn't even used the hot tub yet, and now it was bubbling with strangers, spilled soda, and Karen's entitlement. I didn't say a word. I just turned around, walked back into my house, and shut the door, my hands trembling, not with fear, but with a spark of something else. Revenge. See, I've always had a mischievous streak. Back in college, I once filled my roommate's shampoo bottle with blue food coloring as a prank, harmless, but hilarious. This time, though, I needed something bigger, something that would send a message. As I sat in my living room, staring at the security footage of Karen and her crew on my laptop, an idea started to form. I had a friend from college, Tyler, who now worked in a chemical lab testing water-reactive compounds. Just a month ago, he told me about a dye they used to trace plumbing systems, completely safe, odorless, invisible in cold water, but when heated above 95 degrees Fahrenheit, it turned a vibrant, unmissable shade of purple. And once it set into skin, good luck scrubbing that off for a few days. I picked up my phone, a grin spreading across my face, and dialed Tyler's number. "Hey man," I said, my voice practically buzzing with excitement. "How fast can you ship me something, purple?" Tyler's voice crackled through the phone, his excitement matching mine as I paced my living room, my heart racing with a mix of fury and glee. "Purple, huh?" He chuckled, and I could practically hear the gears turning in his head. "I've got just the thing, Ryan. It's a water-reactive dye, totally safe, FDA approved for testing, but once it hits 95 degrees Fahrenheit, it blooms into this electric purple that'll make grape soda look dull. And it sticks to skin like a clingy X. I can overnight it to you. $50 for the vial, plus shipping." I didn't even hesitate. "Done," I said, my voice trembling with anticipation. "Send it now." I hung up, my mind already spinning with possibilities. Karen thought she could turn my hot tub into her personal playground? Oh, she was about to learn a lesson in boundaries, and it was going to be a vibrant, purple-stained masterpiece. The next 24 hours felt like an eternity. I couldn't sit still. I was a bundle of raw energy, my anger at Karen fueling every step as I planned my revenge like a general preparing for battle. I pulled up the hot tub's manual, flipping through pages until I found the section on additive pods. See, my hot tub had this fancy feature for spa fragrances, little pods you could slip into the circulation system to release lavender or eucalyptus scents. But those pods? They were the perfect size for Tyler's dye. I grinned so hard my cheeks hurt, imagining Karen's face when her community space turned into a purple nightmare. I tested the system with a bit of food coloring first, watching the red swirl through the jets like a warning sign. It worked flawlessly. My hot tub was about to become a weapon of justice, and I couldn't wait to see it in action. While I was scheming, Karen was busy across the neighborhood, completely oblivious to the storm brewing in my backyard. I'd set up a group chat alert on my phone for the Maple Grove HOA page, and it was buzzing like a beehive. Karen had posted a friendly reminder about the upcoming community picnic she was hosting next weekend, free lemonade, a bounce house for the kids, and a raffle for a $200 gift card to the local hardware store. "Let's come together as a neighborhood," she wrote, followed by a string of heart emojis that made my stomach churn. I could just picture her, sitting at her kitchen table with her glittery gel pens, planning her next power move while sipping chamomile tea. She had no idea I was about to turn her world upside down. The thought of her smug smile disappearing in a wave of purple made my heart race faster than a double espresso on an empty stomach. By the time Tyler's package arrived the next morning, I was practically vibrating with excitement. The box was small, wrapped in plain brown paper, but when I opened it, I felt like I just unwrapped a golden ticket. Inside was a tiny vial of clear liquid, a sticky note attached that read, "For educational purposes only, have fun. Tyler." I held it up to the light, my pulse pounding as I imagined the chaos it would unleash. I spent the next hour in my backyard, the sun beating down on my neck as I carefully poured the dye into an empty spot pod. My hand shook not from nerves, but from the sheer thrill of what was coming. I slid the pod into the hot tub circulation system, turned on the jets, and watched the water heat up. At 94 degrees Fahrenheit, it was still clear. But the moment the temperature ticked over 95 degrees Fahrenheit, the water erupted into a swirling, neon purple that looked like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. I dipped an old rag into the water, and when I pulled it out, it was stained a deep, royal purple that wouldn't budge, even after I scrubbed it with soap. I let out a laugh that echoed through my empty yard. It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now, I just needed to lure Karen back. I knew she was nosy, her whole personality was built on sticking her nose where it didn't belong, so I decided to bait her with a little misdirection. I parked my car 2 streets over at my buddy Ethan's house, leaving my driveway empty. Then I posted a vague Instagram story, a stock photo of a beach with the caption, "Weekend Getaway Vibes. See you Monday, Maple Grove." I even left a package on my front porch labeled Beach Essentials in big, bold letters. Karen wouldn't be able to resist. She'd see my empty driveway, assume I was gone, and swoop in like a vulture on roadkill. I set up my security cameras to stream live to my laptop, grabbed a bag of chips, and settled into my upstairs office to wait. My heart pounded with every passing minute, the anticipation building like a storm cloud ready to burst. Meanwhile, down the street, Karen was holding court at the local coffee shop, Maple Brew, where she'd gathered her loyal HOA minions for a planning session. I knew this because Jessica, her right-hand woman, had posted a photo on the HOA group chat, Karen in a floral sundress, holding a latte, with the caption, "Big plans for Maple Grove. Stay tuned." I could just imagine her, stirring her coffee with a smug grin, telling everyone how she'd opened up my hot tub for the community. "Ryan won't mind," she'd probably said, her voice dripping with fake generosity. "He's such a quiet guy, he needs to loosen up." The thought made my blood boil all over again, but it also fueled my determination. She wanted to play dirty? Fine. I was about to paint her world purple. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Maple Grove, I sat in my darkened office, the glow of my laptop screen illuminating my face. The cameras showed my backyard, quiet, empty, the hot tub sitting there like a ticking time bomb, its water shimmering with a secret only I knew. I munched on my chips, my eyes glued to the screen, waiting for the moment Karen would take the bait. Every creak of the house made me jump. Every shadow on the camera feed made my heart skip a beat. I was ready. I was more than ready. Karen had no idea what was coming, but I did, and I was going to savor every second of it. The clock on my laptop ticked to 2:13 p.m. on that sunny Saturday, and I was practically glued to my chair, my heart thumping like a bass drum at a rock concert. My security cameras showed my backyard in crisp detail, the hot tub glowing under the afternoon sun, its water hiding the purple secret I'd planted. I'd been waiting for hours, my chips long gone, my nerves buzzing with a mix of dread and exhilaration. Then, I saw it. The gate creaked open, and Karen strutted in like she was walking the red carpet at the Oscars. She was in a bright yellow swimsuit, a Bluetooth speaker tucked under her arm, and a bottle of sparkling apple juice in her hand. Trailing behind her were her usual crew, Jessica, Mike, Emily, and Chad, plus a couple I vaguely recognized from the last HOA meeting, all in swimwear, carrying pool floats and a cooler like they were on a beach vacation. My stomach twisted with a fiery mix of anger and anticipation. They had no idea what was about to hit them. Karen snapped her fingers like a drill sergeant, pointing at Mike. "Start the jets, let's get this party going," she barked, her voice carrying through the camera's audio. Mike obeyed, flipping the switch, and the hot tub roared to life, bubbles churning the water as the temperature climbed. Karen dipped her toe in first, letting out a dramatic sigh that made my skin crawl. "Perfect," she purred, sinking into the water with the kind of smug satisfaction that made me want to scream. One by one, the others followed, splashing and laughing as they settled in, completely oblivious to the trap I'd set. I leaned closer to the screen, my breath shallow, my fingers gripping the edge of my desk. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. My heart raced so fast I could feel it in my throat, a wild mix of nerves and pure, unfiltered excitement. For the first 5 minutes, everything seemed normal. Jessica was sipping her drink, giggling about some HOA gossip, while Chad dunked a pool float, sending water splashing onto the deck. Karen, of course, was holding court, her voice loud and grating as she bragged about her plans for the community picnic. "We'll have a petting zoo this year," she declared, waving her plastic cup like a scepter. "It'll bring everyone together." I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck, but then I saw it, a faint shimmer in the water, a hint of purple starting to swirl around the jets. My pulse skyrocketed. It was happening. The temperature had hit 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and the dye was activating, spreading through the water like a neon storm. I couldn't tear my eyes away, my whole body buzzing with adrenaline as the chaos began to unfold. Across town, at the Maple Grove Community Center, the HOA Picnic Planning Committee was in full swing, completely unaware of the disaster brewing in my backyard. Karen had left her second in command, a nervous woman named Sarah, in charge of the meeting, and I'd gotten a live update from a neighbor, Olivia, who was texting me from the scene. "Sarah's freaking out," Olivia wrote. "Karen was supposed to bring the budget spreadsheet, but she's not here, and now everyone's arguing about the bounce house budget." I smirked, glancing back at my laptop screen. Oh, Karen had much bigger problems than a bounce house budget right now. The irony was delicious. She was out here throwing an unauthorized party in my hot tub, while her own event was falling apart without her. I couldn't have planned it better if I tried. Back in my yard, the first scream pierced the air. Emily, who'd been taking selfies, suddenly froze, staring at her arm. "What the heck?" she shrieked, holding up her forearm, which was now a vibrant, cartoonish purple. The color was spreading fast, staining her skin like she'd been dipped in grape juice. Jessica looked down at her own legs and let out a blood-curdling scream. "I'm purple. Oh my gosh, I'm purple," she wailed, splashing water everywhere as she scrambled to get out. Mike, who'd been mid-sip of his drink, spat it out, his chest now glowing like a royal amethyst. Chad just sat there, blinking at his hands, his mouth hanging open in shock. "Is this normal?" he stammered, his voice trembling. The hot tub was now a swirling vortex of purple, the water so bright it looked like a portal to another dimension, and everyone inside it was turning into walking, talking eggplants. Karen shot up, her face a mask of confusion that quickly morphed into horror as she noticed her own stomach and thighs glowing like a disco ball. "What is this?" she screeched, her voice hitting a pitch I didn't think was humanly possible. She splashed out of the tub, slipping on the wet deck and nearly face-planting into a lawn chair. Her crew followed, a chaotic mess of flailing limbs and panicked yells, tripping over each other as they tried to escape the purple water. "It's burning. I'm allergic," Jessica screamed. Even though the dye was completely safe, I triple-checked with Tyler. Mike was yelling about lawsuits, waving his purple arms like a madman, while Emily was on her phone, frantically Googling purple skin reaction. Chad, still in the tub, just kept muttering, "This isn't normal, this isn't normal," like a broken record. It was absolute pandemonium, and I was loving every second of it. Karen, now standing on the deck, dripping purple water onto the concrete, spun around, her eyes wild with rage. She pointed at the hot tub like it had personally betrayed her, then turned her glare toward my house. "This is sabotage," she roared, her voice shaking with fury. "That little tech nerd did this. I know it." I muted the audio on my laptop, leaning back in my chair with a grin so wide it hurt. My cheeks burned from smiling, my heart soaring with a mix of triumph and pure, unadulterated joy. They looked like a flock of confused flamingos, flailing around my yard, holding up stained towels, inspecting each other for signs of spreading purple. One guy ran straight into my patio table, knocking over a stack of plastic cups, while Jessica slipped on a pool float and landed on her back with a thud. It was chaos. It was art. And best of all, it was all on camera. As the purple parade finally started to shuffle out of my yard, still arguing and yelling into their phones, I backed up the footage to the cloud, my hands trembling with excitement. I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. Karen wasn't the type to take humiliation quietly, and I could already feel the storm brewing. But for now, I sat back, replaying the footage of her purple meltdown, my laughter echoing through my empty house. She'd crossed a line, and I'd painted her world purple in return. The question was, what would she do next? I had a feeling I was about to find out, and I couldn't wait. I woke up the next morning with a grin plastered on my face, the kind of grin you get when you know you've just pulled off something legendary. My laptop was still open on my desk. The security footage of Karen's purple meltdown paused on a frame where she looked like a furious grape, her arms flailing as she slipped on the deck. I couldn't stop laughing. Every time I replayed the clip, my sides ached, and my heart swelled with a fiery mix of pride and satisfaction. I'd turned Karen's community space into a viral disaster, and the Maple Grove group chat was already lighting up like a Christmas tree. By 9 a.m., the notifications were relentless, memes, GIFs, and snarky comments flooding in faster than I could read them. Someone had photoshopped Karen's face onto a purple dinosaur with the caption, "Karen Rex, the Lavender Tyrant." Another neighbor, a quiet guy named Ben, wrote a fake haiku. "Purple Queen screams loud / hot tub justice strikes at last / HOA beware." I was in tears, my laughter echoing through my house. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. Karen wasn't going to let this slide. She'd come for me, and I needed to be ready. While I was sipping my coffee, scrolling through the group chat, Karen was across the neighborhood, holed up in her pristine living room, plotting her revenge. I didn't see this myself, but Olivia, My neighbor who'd been at the community center yesterday texted me the scoop. She'd stopped by Karen's house to drop off some picnic flyers and found her pacing in a turtleneck and jeans, her skin still faintly purple around her wrists and neck like a stubborn stain. She was on the phone with someone, Olivia wrote, screaming about chemical sabotage and neighborhood hostility. I think she's filing a complaint against you, Ryan. My stomach twisted, a jolt of adrenaline shooting through me. I wasn't surprised. Karen's ego was as big as her HOA rulebook, but the thought of her coming after me lit a fire in my chest. She wanted a fight? Fine. I had evidence, I had receipts, and I had the moral high ground. Let her try. By noon, Karen made her move. She posted a long, dramatic rant on the Maple Grove HOA Facebook page, titled, "A Threat to Our Community, a Call for Action." It was a masterpiece of victimhood, every word dripping with self-righteousness. Yesterday, I was subjected to a malicious act of sabotage, she wrote. A certain resident, whom I won't name but we all know who, used hazardous chemicals to ruin a peaceful gathering, endangering the health and safety of our neighbors. This is an attack on community spirit. I snorted so hard I nearly choked on my coffee. Hazardous chemicals? It was a non-toxic dye, the same stuff used to test plumbing systems, but Karen was spinning it like I'd dumped toxic waste in her backyard. The comments section exploded. Some neighbors called her out, others demanded proof, and one older resident, Margaret, wrote, "So we're just using people's hot tubs without asking now? I call dibs on your pool, Karen." That comment got 150 likes in under an hour, and I couldn't help but laugh, my heart racing with a mix of amusement and defiance. While Karen's post was going viral, I was in my kitchen, printing out copies of my property survey and the hot tub's installation permits. I wasn't about to let her lies stick. I needed to be prepared for whatever she threw at me next. My phone buzzed with a new text from Ethan, my buddy who'd let me park my car at his place. "Dude," he wrote, "Karen just filed an HOA complaint against you. She's calling an emergency meeting tomorrow night to address the incident. You're the talk of the town." My pulse quickened, a surge of anger mixing with a strange sense of excitement. An emergency meeting? Perfect. I'd show up with my footage, my documents, and a smile, ready to watch her story unravel in front of everyone. But as I organized my papers, a new notification popped up on my phone, a message from the county health department. My heart sank, a cold wave of dread washing over me. Karen had escalated things. She'd filed a complaint claiming I'd installed a biological hazard in a residential area. This wasn't just an HOA fight anymore. She was playing dirty, and I was in her crosshairs. The health inspector showed up at my door the next afternoon, a tired-looking guy named Greg with a clipboard and a skeptical frown. "You Ryan?" he asked, flipping through a folder. "Got a complaint about improper chemical use in a residential water feature. Mind if I take a look?" My stomach churned, but I forced a smile, my mind racing as I stepped aside. "Of course," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Want some iced tea while you check out my lavender crime scene?" He chuckled, and I felt a flicker of hope. I walked him to the backyard, explaining everything. The dye was non-toxic, legally purchased, used as a deterrent, not a trap. I handed him Tyler's documentation, complete with safety data, my hands trembling slightly as I watched him inspect the hot tub. After 15 minutes, he nodded, jotting down notes. "Looks fine to me," he said, a grin tugging at his lips. "Funny thing, though, we had a complaint about this HOA a while back. Something about unpermitted food vendors at a community event. Think that's related?" I raised an eyebrow, my heart lifting with a spark of triumph. "Maybe," I said, my voice light. "Karen does love her potlucks." Greg smirked, thanked me, and left, filing the complaint under neighborly nonsense. I let out a shaky breath, relief flooding through me, but I knew Karen wasn't done yet. That night, as I sat in my living room, replaying the footage of Karen's purple meltdown for the 100th time, the group chat lit up again. Someone had posted a photo of Karen at the grocery store, her hands still faintly purple, trying to hide behind a stack of cereal boxes. The caption read, "Purple rain spotted at Maple Mart." I laughed so hard I nearly fell off my couch, my heart soaring with a mix of joy and anticipation. Karen's reputation was crumbling, and the neighborhood was eating it up. But I knew she'd strike back harder at the HOA meeting tomorrow. She was desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. I leaned back, my mind racing with possibilities, a fire burning in my chest. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. But I was ready for her next move, and I couldn't wait to see her try. The air in the Maple Grove Community Center was thick with tension as I walked in for the emergency HOA meeting, my navy blazer feeling like armor against the storm I knew was coming. My heart pounded with a fiery mix of nerves and determination, my hands clutching a folder stuffed with evidence, property surveys, permits, and a flash drive with the unedited footage of Karen's purple meltdown. The room was packed, neighbors whispering and stealing glances at me as I took a seat near the front. Karen was already at the podium, her beige cardigan doing a poor job of hiding the faint purple tint still clinging to her neck. She looked like a washed-up politician clinging to relevance, her eyes darting around the room, avoiding mine. I could feel the heat of her anger from across the space, but I kept my face calm, a quiet smirk tugging at my lips. She thought she was about to bury me, but I was ready to turn this meeting into her public reckoning. Karen cleared her throat, her voice sharp and dramatic as she launched into her speech. "We're here to address a serious threat to our community," she began, her tone dripping with fake concern. "A certain resident, Ryan, has endangered our safety with a malicious chemical prank, turning a peaceful gathering into a nightmare." She held up her hands, still faintly purple, as if they were Exhibit A in a murder trial. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and I felt my blood boil, a surge of anger mixing with a strange thrill. She was lying through her teeth, and I couldn't wait to set the record straight. While she rambled on about community values and hostile behavior, I glanced at my phone. Olivia was live texting me from the back of the room. "People are skeptical," she wrote. Ben just whispered that Karen's full of it. My heart lifted, a spark of hope igniting in my chest. The tide was already turning, and Karen didn't even know it. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "Let's set the record straight," I said, holding up my folder like a shield. "My hot tub is on private property. Here's the survey to prove it. I paid for it myself, and it's fully permitted. Karen and her friends trespassed, threw a party without my permission, and got what they deserved." I plugged the flash drive into the projector, and the room went silent as the footage played. Karen climbing my fence, sipping her drink, laughing with her crew, and then the glorious moment the water turned purple. Screams echoed through the speakers, and the crowd erupted into gasps and muffled laughter as Karen's purple-stained crew flailed around my yard. I paused the video on a frame of her slipping on the deck, her face contorted in rage, and turned to the room. "Does this look like a peaceful gathering to you?" I asked, my voice sharp with defiance. The room buzzed with whispers, and I saw Ben in the back, trying to hide a grin behind his hand. While the meeting unfolded, across town at the Maple Grove Library, a group of neighbors was holding an impromptu gathering to discuss the HOA's finances. I'd gotten a tip earlier that day from Ethan, who'd overheard some whispers at the grocery store. "People are digging into Karen's event budgets," he texted. "They think she's been skimming funds." My heart raced at the thought Karen's corruption was about to be exposed, and I didn't even have to lift a finger. Back at the meeting, Karen's face was turning redder than a summer tomato as the footage ended. She stammered, trying to regain control. "This is irrelevant," she snapped. "He used dangerous chemicals." I held up Tyler's documentation, my voice calm but firm. "It's a non-toxic dye, FDA approved for plumbing tests. The health department already cleared me. But let's talk about trespassing, because that's what you did, Karen." The room went quiet, the weight of my words sinking in. A board member, a quiet guy named Tom, cleared his throat. "Wait, you were trespassing?" he asked, his brow furrowing. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, her excuses crumbling faster than a stale cookie. The meeting took a sharp turn when I dropped my final bombshell. "While we're on the topic of community spirit," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm, "I heard some neighbors are looking into the HOA's finances. Maybe we should talk about that next." Karen's eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing her face, and I felt a surge of triumph so strong I could have shouted. The crowd erupted into murmurs, people pulling out their phones to check the group chat, where the library meeting was already making waves. "They found fake invoices," someone in the back shouted, holding up their phone. "Karen's been overcharging for events." The room descended into chaos, neighbors demanding answers, while Karen stood frozen at the podium, her empire crumbling around her. I sat back down, my heart soaring with a mix of relief and victory, watching her flounder as the board called for an immediate audit. She'd walked into her own trap, and I just lit the match. As I left the meeting, the cool night air hitting my face, I felt lighter than I had in months. My phone buzzed with texts, neighbors thanking me, sharing memes, even inviting me to a barbecue. Karen's reign was unraveling, and the neighborhood was waking up. But I knew she wouldn't go down without a fight. She was desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. I glanced back at the community center, where Karen was still arguing with the board, her voice echoing through the open door. My heart raced with anticipation. She was down, but not out. What would she try next? I couldn't wait to find out. The days after the HOA meeting felt like a victory lap. Maple Grove was buzzing with gossip, and for the first time since I'd moved here, the group chat wasn't full of complaints about lawn ornaments or mailbox colors. It was alive with laughter, memes, and a shared sense of relief that Karen's reign was finally crumbling. I woke up to a text from Olivia. Karen's been removed from the board. 87% voted her out. My heart soared, a wave of triumph washing over me as I pictured her smug clipboard collecting dust. But I knew Karen, she wasn't the type to slink away quietly. My gut told me she had one last card to play, and I was right. By noon, I got a notification that made my stomach drop. Karen had filed a civil lawsuit against me, claiming emotional distress and social ostracization from the purple dye incident. She even attached photos of her still slightly purple hands, as if that would win her $1 million. I laughed out loud, a mix of disbelief and fiery determination igniting in my chest. She wanted to drag this into court? Fine. I was ready to bury her once and for all. While I was on the phone with my lawyer, Mark, strategizing our counterclaim, Karen was across town at the Maple Grove Park, hosting her community unity picnic in a desperate attempt to salvage her reputation. I'd heard about it through the group chat. She'd promised free food, a bounce house, and a raffle for a $300 gift card to a local spa, all to win back the neighborhood's favor. But I had a friend who was about to crash her party. Her name was Lauren, a county event inspector I'd known since high school, and when I'd told her about Karen's antics, she jumped at the chance to help. If she's hosting an event with food and games, she needs permits, Lauren had said, her voice brimming with mischief. I'll stop by and check. I grinned, my heart racing with anticipation as I imagined Karen's face when her last-ditch effort went up in flames. Back at my house, Mark was laying out our plan over the phone, his voice calm but brimming with excitement. We've got her on trespassing, harassment, and defamation, he said. Plus, the HOA audit just came back. Karen's been skimming funds for years. Fake invoices, overcharged events, even a $500 check to a landscaper who doesn't exist. We're filing a counterclaim for punitive damages. My pulse quickened, a surge of adrenaline making my hands shake as I clutched the phone. The audit was public record now, and the neighborhood was in an uproar. People were organizing to replace the entire board, and Karen's name was mud. I felt a thrill so intense I could have shouted, my mind racing with the thought of her facing a judge with nowhere to hide. She'd painted herself into a corner, and I was about to seal the door shut. At the park, Lauren arrived just as the picnic was hitting its peak. I wasn't there, but she texted me a play-by-play, and I could picture it all in vivid detail. Karen was in a floral dress, her purple-tinted wrists barely hidden by long sleeves, barking orders at volunteers while kids ran around the bounce house. The vibe was tense. Neighbors were there for the free food, but the whispers about the audit were spreading like wildfire. Lauren introduced herself to Karen, asking for the event permits, and I could just imagine Karen's fake smile faltering, her eyes darting to the raffle table as she stammered excuses. No permits, no hand-washing stations, and the bounce house is too close to power lines, Lauren texted me. I called in backup. Within 20 minutes, 2 more inspectors showed up, and the picnic unraveled. Vendors were shut down, the bounce house was deflated, and most of the guests left, leaving Karen standing alone with a raffle ticket in her hand. Her last desperate play crumbling like a sandcastle at high tide. The court date arrived a week later, and I walked into the Maple Grove courthouse feeling like a warrior ready for battle, my navy suit crisp and my evidence folder heavy in my hands. My heart pounded with a mix of nerves and excitement as I sat beside Mark, watching Karen across the room in a beige pantsuit, her makeup caked on to hide the last traces of purple. She wouldn't look at me, but I could feel the tension rolling off her in waves. The courtroom was half full, a few neighbors in the back rows whispering and nodding at me with quiet support. Karen's lawyer, a guy who looked like he'd barely passed the bar, started with a dramatic sob story about her trauma from the dye, but Mark dismantled it in minutes. He played the footage, presented the audit, and called Lauren as a witness to testify about the unpermitted picnic. Karen's face turned paler with every piece of evidence, her hands fidgeting in her lap as the judge flipped through the files with a frown. When I took the stand, I kept it simple, my voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through me. I just wanted my privacy, I said. Karen trespassed, lied, and tried to ruin me. All I did was defend my space. The judge's ruling was swift. Karen's claims were dismissed, and my counterclaim was granted, $5,000 in damages for trespassing, plus legal fees. I walked out into the sunlight, my heart soaring with a victory so sweet I could taste it. Maple Grove changed after that. Karen moved away a month later. Some say to her sisters in Florida. Others say she's still hiding in shame. The new HOA president, a no-nonsense guy named Dave, called me to apologize and promised to respect private property. The purple dye pod still sits in my kitchen, sealed in a jar labeled "break in case of emergency." A neighborhood legend that makes people laugh at every barbecue. As I sit in my backyard now, soaking in my hot tub under the stars, the lo-fi beats playing softly through the speakers, I feel a peace I hadn't known since I moved here. Karen's gone, my space is mine, and Maple Grove is finally a community I can call home. If you love this wild ride, hit that subscribe button. I've got more stories to share, and I'd love to have you along for the next one.